Who exactly benefits when America goes to war? That's not a question you'll hear on television. It's not a question you're supposed to ask. But it's the only question that matters. Because every time this country faces a crisis, whether it's terrorism, inflation, or now fentanyl, the same small group of people emerge from the shadows, ready with the same old answer: another war. And this time, it's not in the Middle East. It's not in Eastern Europe. It's closer. They're calling it the drug war. But look closer. It's not really about drugs at all. It's about power. Tonight, we're told that the real threat to America comes from Latin America. That Venezuela, led by Nicolas Maduro, a corrupt, crumbling socialist, is somehow behind the fentanyl crisis, killing over 100,000 Americans every year. Now, ask yourself, how exactly does that make sense? Fentanyl is made in Chinese labs. It's shipped through Mexico. But for some reason, the target now is Venezuela, a country with oil reserves the size of Saudi Arabia's and a government that refuses to trade in US dollars. Strange coincidence, isn't it? And who's leading the charge? The same politicians who never met a war they didn't like. Lindsey Graham, for one. The senator who's been trying to start new wars since the Iraq invasion 20 years ago. He's already called for regime change in Caracas. Because, of course, that's what Washington does best. Change regimes. It's an old playbook. Create a crisis. Find a foreign villain. Declare moral outrage. Then start the bombing. But what if the real crisis isn't in Venezuela or Mexico or even China? What if it's here, in Washington? In a political class so addicted to war that it can't imagine life without one. Look at the timing. The fentanyl epidemic has become America's new national trauma. It's everywhere. In small towns, in schools, in veterans' homes. People are dying. Families are collapsing. But instead of asking why American factories left, why jobs vanished, or why millions turned to drugs in despair, the geniuses in Washington tell us the solution is another invasion. Because for them, war is therapy. War distracts from failure. War creates contracts, funding, campaign donations. War gives relevance to people who'd otherwise be forgotten. Remember Afghanistan? 20 years, $2 trillion, and the Taliban still rule Kabul. Remember Iraq? No weapons of mass destruction, but hundreds of thousands of deaths. Libya? Once the richest country in Africa. Now a failed state controlled by militias and smugglers. But no one was punished for that. The architects of those disasters didn't lose their jobs. They got promotions, book deals, think tank fellowships, and now they're back. The same faces, the same arguments, the same promises. This time they say, it's different. It never is. Let's talk about the money, because there's always money. Defense contractors like Lockheed Martin, Raytheon, and Northrop Grumman don't make profit from peace. They thrive on tension, the promise of another intervention. And in Washington, those companies have friends, consultants, lobbyists, politicians whose campaigns depend on donations that come directly from the war machine. So, when a senator says, we need to do something about Venezuela, what he really means is, my friends need a new contract. And when the media repeats it, night after night, they're not informing you. They're marketing for the Pentagon. Now imagine for a moment if we spent that same energy, that same money, fighting the real crisis, the fentanyl epidemic itself. Imagine if Washington declared war not on foreign governments, but on the hopelessness that's killing Americans from within. Why don't we? Because hopelessness doesn't pay. There's no contract for dignity, no profit in healing broken people. So instead, they find a foreign villain. China, Russia, Iran, Venezuela. Pick one. It doesn't matter. The formula is the same. Create fear, sell weapons, pretend it's patriotism. And when the war begins, When the bombs fall and the headlines flash, it's never the senator's sons or the lobbyist's daughters who fight. It's regular Americans, people who believed the promise, people who love this country enough to risk their lives for it. That's the tragedy. The people who suffer most from these wars are the same people the politicians claim to protect. Go to any small town in Ohio, Kentucky, or Montana. Talk to parents who lost a child to fentanyl. They don't care about Nicolas Maduro. They don't even know who he is. They care about their sons, their daughters, their communities. They want answers. They want accountability. And instead, they get propaganda. So ask yourself, why is America being dragged toward another war? Who profits when that happens? And most importantly, why does no one in power seem to care about fixing the problem right here at home? The answer is uncomfortable, because war is the only language Washington still speaks fluently. One day, Americans will wake up and realize that the greatest threat to this country was never foreign. It wasn't socialism in Caracas or communism in Beijing. It was the small, permanent class of people who turned patriotism into a business model. And when that day comes, when Americans finally say enough, the wars will stop. Not because the politicians choose peace, but because the people choose truth. Until then, the same story will play again. Different villain, same ending. Because in Washington, every crisis is just another opportunity to start a war. And no one ever asks why.